Right here.
Hi, Dr. Peterson. My name is Giancarlo Patoco. First, I just want to thank you so much for sharing the fruits of your suffering with us and all of the work that you've done. Read about it, love it, appreciate it. Thank you for doing that, sharing the gifts. My question is about technology. I've been doing a lot of thinking about the role of technology in our evolution. It served an amazing purpose in creating distance between us and nature so that we can survive and live longer. But it seems like we've reached a point at which technology is so deeply embedded in our lives that it is preventing us from living a more meaningful life. And I'm thinking specifically of the fact that we now have these mobile devices that are with us except when we're in the shower and when we're sleeping, basically. And now there are waterproof iPhones, so I don't know what's going to happen next. But we have these phones with us all the time, and they've got social media on them that it seems like it's kind of addictive and distracting us from ourselves and our lives. And it's something that I'm exploring and working on and have transformed my life by taking control over. I'm wondering if you have thoughts about the role of technology in our lives and if we've reached a turning point in some ways.
Well, okay, I won't comment specifically on the cell phones. And I think the reason for that is that we're in a place where the rate of technological transformation is so fast that the probability that cell phones will still be the problem in 10 years is zero, right? It'll be something else, and maybe something even more difficult to manage. And so, you know, I talked about this idea that this infinite landscape of potential is opening itself up to us even more right now than it has in the past with this tremendous rate of technological transformation. Well, the question is, the broader question that you have is, how do we deal with this? And that's a great question, and I would say the answer to that is prepare yourself. You know, because if I say, well, there's a lot going to come at you in the next 10 years, and there's no predicting what it's going to be. It's going to be something that can be used for ill and something that can be used for good. Well, but we can't predict it. So what should you do? And the answer is, you should prepare, right? You should eradicate your obvious weaknesses. You should strengthen yourself. You should become more alert and more educated and more disciplined. And you'll do that in your own particular way, and that will make you better whoever you are than you are now. And as a collective, that's the best we've got, because, and I mean this at a really deep level, we have become a planetary transforming force. And that's probably really been true since the end of World War II, right? When we invented the hydrogen bomb. It was like, that was a whole new thing. And we obviously have to develop the wisdom that will enable us to manage that. Because what else are we going to do? Otherwise, we're infants with guns. And one of the things I learned from Carl Jung, what I really liked this, is he was very interested in alchemy, which was a weird admixture of ethics, religion, and proto-science. It was the birthplace of science. And it was kind of a dream. The dream was that human beings could investigate the material world and generate the philosopher's stone, which would make everybody healthy, wealthy, and immortal. But there was a dream there. The dream was we could discover that by investigating the material world. And that was the impetus for the development of science. Well, that took off like mad. And in some sense, we have discovered the philosopher's stone. We are much healthier, we live much longer, we're far richer, and that was all a consequence of investigating the material world. But there was a lot of religious and ethical thinking that was part and parcel of the alchemical dream, and it didn't grow the same way. And so it's like we're stuck ethically in like 1600, and technologically it's the 21st century, and that's not good enough. We have to become as powerful ethically as we are scientifically, or we'll do ourselves in. So, and I think that's part of what we're trying to sort out, is what's our ethical responsibility? How good could we become as individuals? And where could that take us if we decide to go there? So, and cell phones are one small but significant element of that. Incredibly powerful devices, but requiring wisdom in their management. And that's just going to get worse, because there are things coming down the pipes technologically that we can't even imagine. So the gentleman who asked the question said he took my personality test and scored rather high in neuroticism, and asked if there was any benefit to that. Well, you know, the answer is it's a normal distribution, right? And so sometimes if you're terrified out of your skull and hiding in the basement, then the king's tyrants don't cut off your head, right? So there are times when the environment is so dangerous that you should be terrified all the time and hide. And like lots of human environments are like that, right? You know, in a Western culture, you might think, well, extroverted and emotionally stable is a pretty good solution. Fair bit of positive emotion, fair bit of verbal assertiveness, not too much fear. It's like, well, if you were like an extroverted and emotionally stable in 1930s in the Soviet Union, you were like dead. So, well, yeah, because what, like if you're introverted and terrified, then maybe you won't be killed. So it's brutal because you have to put up with the neuroticism, right? You have to put up with the anxiety and maybe with the volatility as well. But in a hyper dangerous environment, it's an appropriate strategy. So now, having said that, I would also say that, you know, if your neuroticism levels are extremely elevated, then there's some possibility that you have an anxiety disorder, or that you're depressed, or that there's something wrong with you physically that you might want to get checked out. So, because there's lots of reasons to be upset and unhappy, and some of them are temperamental, you know, that's just how you're wired, and you can detect that in kids as early as 6 months. But sometimes it's a secondary consequence of, you know, other things that have happened in your life, or general ill health. So I also think I've been puzzling for a long time over why women have higher levels of negative emotion than men. And I think there's a couple of reasons for it. It kicks in at puberty, by the way, because it isn't true for boys and girls, but it is true for adult men and women, and it's true throughout the lifespan. I think the reason for it is that the world's actually more objectively dangerous to women at an individual level.